Hi, this is Stephanie with stephaniesrockshow.com, Hard Rock Radio Live, and smnnews.com. We've got the electric, talented, mega cool, mega hot David of Megadeth. Thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome, Stephanie. How are you?
Good, good. How are you doing today?
Excellent. It's great to be here in Austin. We're finishing the Gigantour 2012 here tonight. And in fact, it was funny because the tour was booked and then they added Dallas, Houston, and Austin kind of on the back end. And I'm glad we came down here. I love Texas. I have great memories through all of our years, and even our very first tour that we did, we came through here, so wonderful.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys started in '86. You guys have been going for about 26 years.
Yeah, Dave and I actually met in '83 is when we started Megadeth officially. Our first shows were in 1984, and then our first record was '85, and that was actually, I think, when we came through here, I believe, was on that very first tour in 1985.
Awesome.
And we came through. There's a Canadian metal band called Exciter, so it was Exciter and Megadeth, and it was lean and mean and low dough, but man, great memories. You know, sometimes those tours are the ones that the memories last forever from.
Yeah, I like it. I'm glad you have memory of that. That's
Yes.
good. A lot of bands that toured in the '80s don't have the memory.
I know. I'm pretty fortunate. My memory, and it's funny, between me and Dave, if you ask both of us stories, he'll remember things, I'll remember things, and between the two of us, you kind of get the whole story.
Memory.
Exactly, yeah.
I like it. So you actually started with keyboards, I read. That was kind of interesting. And then at 11, you picked up bass. What made you want to pick up?
Well, keyboards to the degree that my mother suggested I take. We didn't have a piano. We had a Wurlitzer organ. You know, she sang in the church choir, right? So we had like a Wurlitzer organ. So I took organ lessons from like one of the neighbor ladies who was like the church organist, you know. And I mean, this was just, music I can't even... I shudder to remember it. You know what I mean? But yeah, exactly, pretty much. You know, so it taught me to read treble clef with the left hand, bass clef with the right, and then you have also on an organ you got a foot pedal. You know, so you're kind of. I guess it's good if you're going to be a drummer because you're kind of used to doing those things.
All over the place.
Yep. And then in fifth grade I picked up tenor saxophone. It was the coolest looking instrument, you know.
Yeah.
And then did
it get you laid in fifth grade?
No,
Was that
it did not. No, it did not. It did not. It took the bass to do that, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. But that was much later because I started playing bass at age 11, and I quickly got in with some guys. We put a band together. We were doing little concerts at age 12, 13, you know, so I got into it very young. And it's interesting you bring up about SEX and those kind of things because that all came, you know, I didn't know about sex and drugs. I was just into rock and roll, you know, and which is a good thing. And I say that.
You grew up with a Christian background.
I did,
right?
yeah, exactly. And I just came from a good farm family in the Midwest, you know, and it's
Minnesota.
Cool. Minnesota.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Don't you know? Do you still have an accent?
I don't, but my mother still talks like that. God bless her. She's got a cute little accent. But it's funny because, you know, playing music, because years later, you know, in 1990, right before we made the Rust in Peace record, I had to correct a few things with my lifestyle and my way of living. And I had to kind of default back to when I was 10, 11 years old, and the real reason I even got into this, which is just for the love of rock and roll, you know. And there's a lot of distractions, as we know, that come along in this business, and you know, but for me, I was glad that I was able to take it back to that because I think that that's why I'm still here. I wake up every day waiting to get on stage and play and do it for the love of the music and the interaction with the fans and just that love of being on stage to perform and play for people and entertain them.
I love that. It's great reasons. And just kind of brushing on growing up and your Christian background, I think it's really neat that you've fallen into like a role model base pretty much with the ministry in your Lutheran church.
Right.
What kind of pulled you back into religion that maybe you didn't leave it, but you just are getting more involved?
You know, there's a scripture that says, raise your children in the ways of the Lord, and even if they fall off, they will always return, you know? And I didn't know that until I read it, and I went, that kind of happened to me, you know? And I think when, you know, family has a way of kind of pulling things together because we kind of turn into our parents in a certain way, you know?
We do.
And years ago, about 18 years ago, I got married, and my kids are now, my son is 16, my daughter's 13. And when that happens, all of a sudden, that's a reality, like, whoa, okay, this not just playing house and goofing off here. This is real stuff, and we're bringing people into the world. And there's a responsibility to that, And to me, I think that was kind of my return back to some of my Lutheran upbringing, because it was kind of it was sort of a benchmark that I think was good.
I was baptized Lutheran. I'm sorry, I didn't see anybody cool that was Lutheran. I didn't have kind of like a Lutheran role model, so that's awesome.
Hey, Luther was cool. Martin Luther was punk rock all the way, man. I mean, he went up against the biggest organized religion of his day, and he fought the good fight because he took it back to what was true, which is what was in the scriptures. And I think the Word of God is awesome. It's unfortunately what people have done with it, And I'll be the first to say that no one's made a bigger mess of Christianity than the Christians,
Well, some people get too into stuff and ruin everything.
Yeah.
It's people.
And I don't mean that for everybody,
No.
but in general, it's when people get fanatical. Same with politics, government is here for the reason to help govern and create, some neutrality, but oftentimes people that get into government make the mess of it. Same with rock and roll. Some of the people that have made the biggest mess of rock and roll are the rock and rollers. So it could be said for any business, So I kind of try to stay out of that stuff and just kind of take it back to, again, reading the Bible. I used to think the Bible was this book of like all these goody two-shoes and square people.
No,
I've
met a lot of rockers into the Bible that have.
Well, but I was saying that even the people in the Bible are like some of the most heinous people on the planet, who did some of the worst possible things. So I was like, it's good to see things haven't changed too much,
You can repent. You can always come back.
Exactly. So anyway, that's kind of been my history with it, and it's funny that Revolver Magazine did a story a few years ago about the books that are commonly used to write heavy metal lyrics, and the Bible was still number one.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
It is.
And speaking of Revolver, we've got the Golden God Awards coming up. Revolver's April 11th. You're up for Best Bassist, which is really exciting. Who are you stoked to see at that award show?
I forgot exactly who all was on there. It's funny. Nikki Sixx is a cool guy. He's a real rock and roller kind of guy, and I've gotten to hang with him a bit and getting to know him a little bit over the years. And I listened to his Sirius XM radio station. Yeah, the show that he's got. It's great. He's got some cool tunes on there. I've gotten turned on to some pretty cool music from his station. And so I don't know that much about 6am, but I think they're playing, so that ought to be kind of fun to see. Last year I was there, and I got to know Dave Navarro, who I've been a big fan of his playing. I love how he plays guitar. Yeah. Like him and Slash are two guys that just have
they just in Slash category.
Oh, absolutely. No, very yeah. And so to get to know Dave was cool. And he and I had a little chat. I was doing some interviewing for Zoom and Samson TV, and
we didn't interview last year. I'm bummed.
You didn't?
No. You and I didn't.
Well, it's a fun place to go. Are you going to go this year?
I've been every year. I can't go this year because I moved back to Hollywood May 1st, but I'm in Austin for a year.
Well, we'll be thinking about you. Yeah, it'll be awesome.
I'll be there in spirit. You guys rock.
And the other thing that's kind of cool about that is the day after, on April 12th, we're going to do another one of these Metal Masters 3. It's kind of a clinic/performance. And with the first one we did a year ago, right after, actually, I think it was the day before the Golden Gods. I don't know, somewhere, because it was Metal Masters 1, Revolver Golden Gods, and the Indio Big Four.
They get you all flying into LA for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, it was all a huge thing. Yeah. Then right before Yankee Stadium, we did Metal Masters 2 in New York, and then now we're going to do a Metal Masters 3. So it's going to be, I believe, Kerry King, Dave Lombardo, Frank Bello, and Charlie Benante from Anthrax, Mike Portnoy, myself, and then some other special guests who are going to show up.
We can't say yet. We don't know.
And the thing is, we don't even totally know, because since it's right after the Golden Gods, you never know. There's going to be gods. There'll be gods just walking down the street those days, right?
So, the Rainbow, that's where I always hung out around there, because it was just like, wow, I can interview more people at the Rainbow the night before the Golden Gods than I can set up in a year.
Be careful with those iced teas over there.
Yeah, those they're strong.
Iced teas, they're very strong.
Yeah. Especially Maria. She's my favorite. Okay, so I want to know, one of my favorite songs and intros is Peace Sells. Where were you when you started that intro?
Dave and I were basically homeless, which, as we were during the first couple records of Megadeth's career. And
the best music's made.
We were living actually with the guy who co-produced and engineered the Killing Is My Business record, our first album. His name is Carrot Fay, and he lived up in Laurel Canyon. And we were at his house, and I had this BC Rich bass that we ripped the frets out of it, so it was fretless. And I think Dave picked it up, and he was starting to write like the riff of the song, and was kind of noodling around on it. He said, "Here, play this part," and hands me the bass. And then that night we drive and we pick up Gar Samuelson, who lived up in Pasadena, and we went downtown L.A. where our rehearsal place was, where we also lived from time to time.
Yeah.
And
bad places to be homeless, Laurel Canyon, downtown LA. I would be there.
Homeless meaning we usually had a roof over our head, but it was either the van that I owned or our rehearsal studio or just poor hapless people that didn't know we were moving in with them. But
hot chicks in the Viper room, kind of whoever was.
Yeah, once in a while. Yeah, once in a while. But those things have an attachment to them too. So we tried to stay away from some of that.
Psycho.
Yeah, exactly. So. So anyway, so that was when Peace Sells was written, was around that whole thing. And I remember the music was coming together, and Dave, I would drive. Dave was always, right-hand seat. And
he was a good passenger.
No, and it was fun.
He was excellent.
A lot of creative things would happen. I'd be driving, and we'd be talking, he'd be thinking. All of a sudden, the moment of silence, and then all of a sudden he goes, "What do you think about Peace Sells, but who's buying?" I mean, it just came to him one day in the van, driving, and
really creative minds.
It was cool, because that was just how it happened, and a lot of the songs were written, created, ideas came about, or sometimes we'd be driving and David would go, that one part in such and such song, what do you think if we change this or we add it 4 more times? And so lots of times Megadeth songs aren't written necessarily with an instrument in the hand. They're written sort of conceptually. Then we get in the room and we actually put them together with the instruments in our hand.
Oh, wow.
It's very bizarre, isn't it? Because it's
cool, though.
you would
normally I sit down and they do a guitar riff, kind of bored, and then the idea starts there. But your idea started in the mind more and projected vocally, and then you added music to the concept.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's very different that they kind of come together from a conceptual point of view first, and then the instruments are used like tools. It's sort of like architecting a building. And then you break out the hammer and the saw and you cut the parts and build it as you envisioned it.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably a better idea to vision it before you start drawing board, so I like it.
Begin with the end in mind, I guess, right? Yeah.
So tell us about your book, Unsung, that's coming out. Where did that come about? How did that idea come up?
Okay, it should be out next week. And it's my first self-published thing. I'm not really wasn't that hip to it, except a friend of mine did a poetry book, and I loved it. It was so cool, and that's when the idea actually hit me when we were at home in December over the Christmas break. One day I opened up a folder and I had all these lyrics, and I was thinking, man, I should do something with these, but I don't want to make a solo album, and I don't want to put music together to lyrics. It takes a lot of time. I'm not in that mindset because we're on a Megadeth tour right now. Yeah. So all of a sudden the idea was like, let's put some photos and images to this. So anyway, the team came together quickly. We've been working on it for the last couple of months. And it's a lot of different lyrics of various types, some very kind of deep things, some light inspirational things. And because it's not set to music, it doesn't have to be categorized as like it's a metal album or it's an inspirational album. Yeah. Lyrically, it can kind of have a little bit of all of it together. So, yeah, it's called Unsung Words and Images. It's going to be out, like I say, probably next week. I'm gonna be able to release it. Yeah. So, and what's kind of cool about it is I believe we're going to be able to have a hardcover and a soft cover, and those will be a little bit more money, but then I believe also maybe some digital distribution on it, which would be a lot less money.
iTunes and Amazon.
Exactly, yeah. So, and you won't, obviously if it comes through iTunes, you won't be able to physically hold it, but with digital readers and things like that, you'll be able to still get the book, and it should be cool.
As many people as possible everywhere.
Yeah, it should be a fun read, and people I think will enjoy the images that go along with the lyrics.
Awesome. Well, I love it. I'm looking forward to your book, Unsung, and to check you out a little bit in Austin, Texas right now. Thank you very much for stopping by the shows and taking time out of your day. I know you guys are super busy, so rock on.
See ya.